Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharmarashtra Jayate. Suravangsha Jayate. Om Hari Om. Namaste, everyone. It is absolutely my honor and my privilege to be here with you today. We are here situated in the temple room of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. And what we are doing today is something a little bit different from what we usually do with our live streams. In previous weeks, we were going through several verses from Bhagavad Gita that were a stream of thought, and we've decided we're not going to do that today. We will resume next Monday with that series that we're doing on Bhagavad Gita. But today we are celebrating something that was established by the International Sanatana Dharma Society a few years ago. And this is what is called Holy Name Day. This occurs every December 26th. And the idea is that with Holy Name Day, we do a global meditation, a worldwide meditation, in which the many, many thousands, ultimately thousands of devotees of the International Sanatana Dharma Society, and then anyone else who wishes to join us, we will all meditate together, and very specifically on the mantra, Aum Namo Narayanaya. And with that, we have many moderators on hand, and I hope that a moderator will put the full mantra in the chat for those individuals who don't know this mantra, because we always have new people who don't necessarily know all of the basics of Sanatana Dharma. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be repeating this mantra in meditation 108 times. And for those individuals who are initiated or who happen to have beads, we will be keeping track on our beads. For myself, these are the japa mala, or the meditation beads that I personally use. These are my beads, no one else uses them. So I will be using this. And again, if you have beads, please feel free to use your beads. If you don't have beads, please do not worry about it in any way whatsoever, because I will be keeping track of the mantras, and again, we will be saying this 108 times. Now, before we dive into the actual meditation, I just want to talk for a moment about why we are doing this. Well, again, this started several years ago, about 3 years ago or so. I believe that this is the third time that we're doing this, the third year. And the idea is several things. First of all, the holy name of God is something that is so powerful that by reciting the name of God, we bring auspiciousness into our world like nothing else can. There are many ways of achieving auspiciousness within the world, in our environment, in ourselves, in our surroundings, in our family, in our nation, in the world, etc. There are many ways of achieving auspiciousness, but the greatest way in which to do this is indeed to take shelter of the names of God. And the reason why this is the case is because when the names of God, the actual names of God, are understood, it is also understood that the name of God is non-different from God. This being the case, when we, with devotion in a meditative attitude, when we recite the names of God, we are in a way making God present. So this is true for one individual if you're doing your own meditation, if you're doing your own sadhana. Imagine, however, on a day like this when we have thousands upon thousands of individuals all at the same time reciting the names of God all throughout the world. And indeed, we have a reach such that our videos are seen in approximately 140 nations. The ISDS itself has a direct reach in about 70 nations. So this is going to be something that will be done worldwide. Now, again, it still begs the question, why? Well, several things. We want to indeed bring auspiciousness to our world because today, especially at the very tail end of 2022, what we have seen is that in so many ways the world has become inauspicious. It has become a truly terrible place in some respects, economically, culturally, morally, etc., etc., etc. Well, we wish to counteract this inauspiciousness by, again, invoking the names of God. The other thing that we're trying to do is we are trying also to indeed defeat the authors of inauspiciousness in our world today. That is, that there are individuals in the world today who are asuric in nature. Well, when as a world we recite the names of God, this creates an environment in which demonic folk, demonic individuals cannot be sustained. Indeed, it makes them flee. And third, we are ushering in the golden age. There is a mini golden age that is about to start, that we are about to see, that we are actually in the very birth pangs of right now. And this is why, indeed, things are as crazy as they are, as every human being upon the planet who is not living under a rock has now seen. Good things are happening, bad things are happening. But the point being that things are happening in our world today, the likes of which have not been seen before. This is because, indeed, a golden age is about to start. Well, such activities as this, individuals en masse by the many multiple thousands reciting the name of God, creates an environment that is even more conducive for the commencing of this golden age. So this is why we are doing this, and again, it's annual. We will do this every year as the International Sanatana Dharma Society. So with that, I thank you for being here, and we will now do our meditation. And let me very quickly tell you how this will be done. So again, I have my beads. I will be keeping track. We are going to first be in a meditative attitude, a meditative mode of awareness. To do this, if you're not already doing so, please try to sit comfortably, but at the same time, alert, kind of like I am now. I'm actually extremely comfortable. Being a yogi, I can sit like this for many hours. I'm very comfortable, but at the same time, I'm not drooped over. I'm very alert in everything, including even how my body is situated, etc. I would suggest that you do the same. And we're going to begin first with just about a minute of breath concentration, focusing our awareness on the breath with the idea of allowing the body to relax, allowing the mind, even more important and even more difficult, to become calm and stilled. At that time, after approximately a minute, I will begin to do the mantra myself. I suggest that you also do the same. Again, try to count up to 108. If you can't, please don't worry, because I'll be doing so. When we're done with the mantra portion, then at that point, again, we will very simply focus on breath for about another minute or so. And that will then end the meditation. I will signal to you when the meditation portion is actually over. So with that, again, we will commence with our meditation, starting first with simple breath concentration. Namo Narayanaya. Om 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 Namo Narayanaya. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Very good. Thank you all very much for doing this meditation with me. Before we leave, actually, at first I was thinking that I was not going to take any questions from anyone, but in actuality, I believe that I will. So if you give me, please, just a few moments, I will resituate myself and I will take questions from the audience. Thank you. Very good. Well, once again, everyone, thank you so much for doing this wonderful, auspicious meditation with us. And we have several devotees here at the temple as well as all the individuals who are watching online right now and the many thousands who will see this as a recording in various venues. So with that, again, as I mentioned, I would like to take some questions from people, and I won't do this for very long, but just for a short time actually. And I see one question here from Draco Distortion, and it is, Namaste Sri Acharyaji, please accept my humble obeisances, and likewise. In the first of the four Vedas, Varuna is described as the ultimate god. Why isn't Varuna seen in this way anymore? Good question, and let me answer that very, very simply. It's because there are no good translations of the four Vedas, unfortunately. That's why it seems that the Rig Veda is saying this, and that's the Veda that you are referring to as Rig Veda. Very bad translations, and this is known, has been known for a very long time, that sadly all of the translations of the original four Veda Samhitas into especially English, but I would say all languages, these translations are quite bad, and that for very practical reasons actually. The four Veda Samhitas are written not in normative Sanskrit, what is called classical Sanskrit, but is written in what is actually called Vedic Sanskrit, which is an earlier layer, but more than this, it is a layer that is meant very specifically for hymns. This being the case, not every rule and regulation, not every grammatical rule of Vedic Sanskrit, interestingly, is known. This is not something that a lot of people speak about, but for people who know, they know. I.e., every single scholar of Sanskrit and Hinduism upon the face of the earth. Not your average Hindu, run-of-the-mill Hindu, but we're talking about scholars. All are aware of this. That when it comes to translating the Rig Veda, or all of the four Vedas, it's very, very difficult, unlike those scriptures that are then written in classical Sanskrit. That being the case, the translations are just not good. That's the first thing. Then politically speaking, let us just say, those individuals who, especially in the 19th century, i.e. British and French and German Indologists who translated Rig Veda, had their own agenda in translating. So in some cases, they purposefully mistranslated this. So no, the Rig Veda does not say that Varuna is the supreme being, i.e. the source of all reality. That simply is not the case. So mistranslation and misunderstanding. Very good. Very good. Let me see if there are any other questions here. Nice. Here is a question from Love Conqueror, and it is, Namaste Acharyaji, a question from Boris, who sadly could not make it. And this is the question: what can we do in our daily life, in addition to spiritual practice, to cultivate heavy humility? Jaya Sriman Narayana. Very nice. The best way to cultivate humility is seva, is by doing service. So let me go a little bit in depth into this and explain why that is indeed the case. Well, what is the opposite of humility? It's egotism, it's selfishness, it's self-centeredness. It's thinking that I am the center of all things regarding me, that's all that's of importance, everyone, everything, the entire cosmos. exists to serve me and me alone. Now, that is the basis of the opposite of humility, that is, of ahankara, of false ego. And truthfully, anyone with false ego believes exactly what I just said, but to greater or lesser degrees, and for most people, it's subconsciously. Let's face it, most people don't go around saying what I just said. Oh, I am the center of the universe, etc. But internally, they act that way. This is the nature of false ego. Now, in performing seva, that is spiritual service, we are now, and not just theoretically, not just philosophically, not just theologically, but with our own body, with our own mind, with our own actions, we are performing the opposite of false ego. We are serving. And to serve, this means something very specifically in a spiritual context. What this means very specifically is serving that which is transcendent. That is the only definition of seva. There were some scoundrels in the 19th century, and these were scoundrels who were fraudulent so-called gurus, who began saying that, oh, simply doing charity is seva, or working at a soup kitchen is seva, or giving a homeless person $1, that's seva. No, that's charity. And I have talks in the past, videos, where I speak about this in length for like an hour. What is the difference between charity versus service? Charity is charity, and it is invaluable. It's something that must be done. If you have abundance, oh, give it to the poor, give it to people who need it. Absolutely, give to people who are hungry, etc. But that is not seva. What seva is consciously serving the transcendent. And what does that mean? That means serving God and serving God's devotees, serving the Vaishnava community. So this is what is meant by seva. When we do things in order to give of ourselves for the sake of something infinitely higher than ourselves, so again, the transcendent, what we are doing is now creating humility in reality, in operation. We have become humility in motion. Because now with everything that we're doing, with body, with mind, with soul, all aligned, we are now giving of ourself rather than the opposite. You see, so the opposite of humility, again, being ego, we want to take for ourselves. Give me, give me, give me. With seva, we are now doing the opposite of that instinctual motion. And this is how we build humility, is by giving of ourselves to others. And like with everything else, that is of importance, that is an important virtue, value, etc. To build humility takes time. To do anything good takes time. That being the case, of course, it is a practice in which we do seva, we do seva, we do seva, and in this way, little by little, we cultivate humility. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. Very good. Here's another question from Jason, and it is, Namaste Acharyaji. Is any misfortune that can happen to us in this lifetime due to karma? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Karma is something that is always operative as long as we're in illusion, as long as we're not liberated beings. And by karma, what is meant by this, of course, is karma that stretches back from the very beginning of the cultivation, the arising of false ego. As soon as false ego arose with us, whenever that was, however many lifetimes ago, then that being the case, now operating out of false ego, we will do things in order to create karma, both good and bad. This being the case, in this lifetime, we're experiencing the karma that we created lifetimes ago, sometimes even in this very lifetime, actually. It really depends. There is no hard and fast rule as far as how long it takes for karma to come to fruition. It could be the case that we did something a year ago and now we are experiencing the repercussions of that, and again, either good or bad. But karma being so vast and intricate for every individual being, it is usually the case that it goes back several lifetimes. So Right now, we are experiencing the karmic effects of free will ethical decisions, both good and bad, that we made lifetimes ago, and more with every ethical decision that we're making in this life, even an hour ago, even a day ago. We are creating future karma for, indeed, the future. So, this being the case, the goal is to transcend karma altogether. Some individuals, unfortunately, and sadly, this is true for a tiny number of practitioners, not many. Most practitioners of Sanatana Dharma are pretty intelligent. But some individuals believe this. Certainly, a lot of people who are not conversant with Sanatana Dharma and try to critique it will, will often say that it is the case that karma is something that is immediately operative. And that simply is not the case. It's not simply something that's immediately operative. You know, oh, I give $1 to someone today, and an hour later, something good will happen to me, etc. That's not how karma actually operates in any way. So it takes time. So with that, I'll see if there are some more questions. Very good. Here's another very practical question that I will answer because it's very simple. It's simply a matter of Sanskrit. And this is from Draco Distortion again. Namaste Acharyaji. Thank you for answering my questions. My pleasure. What is the difference between namaste and namaskara? Very good. They're simply two Sanskrit constructions. They both mean pretty much the same thing, but the literal translation is a little bit different. With namaste, it's actually two words, namaha and then te. Namaha means to offer obeisances, to offer respects. Te is unto you. So namaha te, when brought together, there's a certain grammatical Sanskrit rule in which that H becomes an S. So it becomes namaste. Namaste. I offer my obeisances unto you. Now, with namaskara, and there is an A on the end of that, some people leave the A off, they shouldn't, because then it's no longer Sanskrit. With namaskara, it's somewhat similar, except the literal meaning is a little bit different. So again, it's namaha, which becomes, the H becomes an S. Then the second word is kara, from kr, meaning to do, to perform, to act, etc. So what you are saying when you say this namaskara is I do obeisances unto you. So I offer obeisances or I do obeisances, I make obeisance, etc. So in literal translation, there's a slight difference. In practice, they're saying the exact same thing. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. Here's a nice question from Noah, and it is Namaste Acharyaji. Often murtis are dressed and decorated with flowers and so forth, but I have not seen the ones in the ISDS temple decorated like this. Is there a particular reason as to why? Yes, actually, it is not the case that murtis are always dressed, etc. That's not always the case. It varies from temple to temple to temple. And as far as why, in some cases they will be dressed very elaborately, in other cases they're not. That's in accordance with tradition, that's in accordance with the desire of the individuals running that temple, it's in accordance with the form of material that the murti is made out of, etc. So, for example, in many ISKCON temples, the murtis are almost always some form of marble, which is much more conducive for putting live flower garlands on them, etc. It's because of the material. That is, the live flower garlands will not do anything to stain the murtis, etc. Whereas if you have brass or bronze or something like that, it's a very different story. If you have flower garlands on them for too long, then there tends to be a stain that develops, and it's not good. It does not look good, and it's honestly disrespectful. You want to make sure that the murtis look perfect and are not distorted by color in any way. And then again, as far as clothing, some murtis are designed such that indeed, if you desire, you can put fresh clothing on them all the time. Other murtis are designed in such a way that they already have clothing on them as within the sculpture itself. Now, as far as the murtis that we have here of Sriman Narayana, If you look at an image of them, which, I could turn the camera, but that would not be very professional, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm sure you've seen images of them. They're already clothed. They are already clothed. It's part of the sculpture itself. So to put clothing on top of clothing just wouldn't make sense. So again, there is no hard and fast rule about this. It depends on all the factors that I said. Indeed, if you go to many very orthodox Vedic temples, they don't use flower garlands. If they do, they use them very briefly, and not many of them. And sometimes they, again, don't actually clothe the murtis because they are already officially clothed. So I hope that answers the question. Good, very good. Here is a very good question about karma again, and it's from Inspirational Mindset, and it is Namaste Sri Acharyaji. I wish to ask if all evil things or misfortunes that happen to us is because of bad karma, or is there some randomness as well? That is, someone chooses to do harm to someone. Excellent question. I've been asked this before, and the conclusive answer is that not everything is karma. Karma is a very, very important factor in this world, but I've said this many times. It is by far not the only factor, because what trumps karma, what trumps many things actually, is also free will. And of course, if we were to take a causal perspective of this, thus going back ad infinitum as far as cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect, then it becomes a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which was the first karmic reaction that came into being? Was that something that itself was produced by karma, or was it free will, etc.? So there is an interplay of many things that occur. Karma does not explain 100% of the misfortunes that happen to us. In some cases, there is, let's say, an activity that happens as far as either misfortune or fortune that is unprecedented and just occurred right then and there. It's not the result of karma. That is, it's the result more of our free will decision or the free will decision of other people upon us. So this being the case, this is why I always explain to people that some individuals will sadly use this as a lazy excuse for misbehavior on their part. They will see someone who is suffering, whether it's a human, whether it's an animal, and they'll just kind of, in a very callous sort of way, a very Vaishnava, dharmic sort of way, they'll simply say, oh, it's just that person's karma. Oh, a baby fell out the window. Oh, I guess it was the baby's karma. Now, is that true? It could be. Most likely it is. But this is why I say that this is a very callous and cavalier and really radically neophyte attitude to have, is because it may or may not have been that individual's karma that they suffered. But as a free will agent, and infinitely more important than that, as an individual who is a Vaishnava, who claims to be a Vaishnava, who claims to be a devotee of Sriman Narayana, and who thus, of necessity, should be exhibiting compassion, regardless of karma, we should still help people. It's not enough just to say, oh, that person is suffering. Oh, it's their karma. No, it's that person is suffering. Karma or no karma, it is my duty to help them out of love and out of compassion. So again, this is how we see that there is an interplay that is there. And to be callous is the opposite of to be a Vaishnava. What it means to be a Vaishnava is that we are an individual who we are brimming with love for all living beings, whether cats, whether dogs, whether elephants, whether horses, whether cows, whether birds, whether humans. Whenever we can, we manifest compassion toward all living beings, and we try to alleviate their suffering. And we don't use this as an excuse. Oh, just their karma. That's of no consequence to us. We see suffering, we endeavor to end it. That's what it means to be a virtuous being and a Vaishnava. Very good. Very good. Raja Shekaram asks this question. Namaste Acharya. I am very curious to know how the epic scriptures have been preserved since more than 5,000 years. How have they been made available even now? Excellent question. And the answer is very simple. Very good memory. People in the past were superior in every manner to individuals today. People of 5,000 years ago were qualitatively superior, and that includes their memory. So as we know, this is what the Vedic tradition teaches us. For anyone who considers themselves Hindu, we all know this, that the Vedic scriptures, all the scriptures, that includes the Itihasas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, this includes the Veda Samhitas, this includes the Upanishads, this includes the Puranas, and on and on and on. They were carried down orally from generation to generation to generation by heroic individuals who spent their lives memorizing them. And again, their memory, because they weren't distracted by video games, because they weren't distracted by a smartphone, because they weren't distracted by a computer, because they weren't distracted by television and by movies, and etc., by hunting after a mate, etc. They had the time and the inclination to memorize, and they did so yogically. In other words, these were individuals who meditated, so thus their minds were perfect. So these scriptures were memorized, and a guru would teach it to his disciples, plural. Those individuals would memorize it perfectly, and then they would teach it to their disciples. In this way, the sacrifice, the heroic sacrifice that these rishis and brahmanas and sages of the past, the sacrifice that they made is astounding. They became living books. They became living scriptures, walking living scriptures, to the point where if you encountered one of these individuals who he was charged with one Veda or one Purana or one Shastra or another, and you could go up to this person, sir, in the fifth parva of this scripture, in chapter 28, verse 13, can you please remind me of the Sanskrit of that verse? And without blinking, the person will recite it. That was in the past. Now people are not very intelligent. They don't have that same sort of memory that they did back then. Now, thankfully, almost all of the scriptures have been rendered in printed form. So now we can go to a library, we can go to a bookstore, we can go online, and we can actually read them. But the fact that we can is something we should never take for granted. The fact that you can go online and read versions of the Bhagavad Gita, we must always be grateful for the fact that there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of generations of heroes who memorized these scriptures and passed them down to us. So that's how we have them today. Very nice. Very good. Here's a good question, Blue Suzaku, and it is Namaste Acharyaji. What roles do patience and persistence play on the spiritual journey? Both are crucial. Both are crucial on our spiritual journey, in our spiritual path, in our sadhana, in all the practice that we do. We have to have patience because, indeed, as I said before, with building humility and really building any virtue, and then beyond the virtues, coming to know ourselves perfectly, having self-realization, and then ultimately God consciousness. This is something that takes time. That being the case, time coupled with our eagerness sometimes leads to impatience. Something that takes a long time, and then coupled with our eagerness, we're eager, we will become impatient. Well, time is going to be there, regardless. It will take time to grow spiritually. Again, any person who tells you that there's instant enlightenment, no, just stay away from that person. That's someone who got his wisdom from a Cracker Jack box, not from reading the Vedic scriptures. No, it will take you time. You want to know yourself perfectly. You want to know that which is the self of yourself. It will take time. So that's an existential fact. But then as far as eagerness, oh, you have to be eager. You have to be eager. Without eagerness to know truth, you won't know truth. You'll have no motivation to know truth. So time is there, eagerness must be there, and again, they do not have to equate with impatience. Rather, consciously, you make yourself patient. You understand that through detachment that the way that we grow spiritually is abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasa, we do over time, and with vairagya, with detachment. However long it takes, it takes. That's where the patience comes from. And then again, perseverance is crucial. You must persevere through all challenges that come your way. And if you're doing something important, you know there are going to be challenges. If you do anything of importance, you're in college, you want an MD, you want to become an MD, you want to do anything that's of importance, you know that you need to be persistent. You know that there are going to be challenges. Well, this is true spiritually as well. Spiritual people don't get a break with this. Again, New Age people will tell you otherwise. They'll tell you it's all wishful thinking. It's all law of attraction, etc. Oh, I want enlightenment. Oh, a minute later, okay, I'm enlightened because I wanted it. No, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for New Age people either. There are no enlightened New Age individuals. They're the opposite, very sadly. No, if you want to grow spiritually, be prepared for challenges. Be prepared for challenges from without and from within. Your own mind is going to trick you. Your own mind is going to rebel against you. When you sit down and you try to meditate, we meditated for about 10 minutes. Try to meditate for an hour. Your mind is going to rebel and not, it's going to try its best to not let you. And then there are all the external factors. There will be challenges. This is why you are persistent. This is why you have a vision like a laser beam pointed toward the goal. And anything else, any little voices along the way, any challenges that happen, you don't even look at them. You continue unblinkingly toward that goal. You have that persistence. So indeed, patience and persistence are two of the most important things that we need. Very good. Here is a question from Ananta Shesha, and it is Namaste Sri Acharyaji. We recently had a discussion in Discord about euthanizing suffering animals. Please explain what is best when it comes to proper practice in this regard. Thank you very much. Very good question. Very question that especially is relegated to modernity. Though truthfully, this has always kind of been a question in the past, but it's become a question now. The proper course of action when it comes to an animal who is severely suffering is compassion. And what does that mean? Well, several things have to be recognized. Animals and humans are indeed not the same, and the same laws that apply to animals do not apply to humans and vice versa. When it comes to animals, it's always been recognized that animals, while we respect them as living beings, while we understand that they are Atman, while indeed we don't eat them, indeed we try to treat them as compassionately as possible. Animals are wonderful. It's not just a matter of being vegetarian. We are vegetarian because we don't want to harm animals. We don't want to harm animals because animals are wonderful. They're wonderful companions, etc., etc. But at the same time, again, there is a distinction. When it comes to the idea of euthanizing any sort of pet, especially, and you talk about animals in general. People don't really go into nature and euthanize animals. So let's talk about pets, because this is 99.999% what this applies to. When it comes to pets, every pet gets ill, but when it comes to the point where we are talking about an illness that is so debilitating to the point where the animal cannot even move, can't even walk, can barely open its eyes, and is making noises to the point where it's obvious that it is in severe pain. So again, not just because we feel like it, not just because, oh yes, I had a pet, but I got tired of it, not just because, oh, pet food went up 3% in the last year, so now I'm going to be cheap and I've decided I don't want to have my pet live anymore. No. When it gets to the point where indeed this pet has come to the point where it's obvious it's not going to live and it is truly suffering in a profound way, at that point, euthanasia is fine. Again, not in a trivial way and not with trivial arguments that, oh, what if, oh, the pet's just gotten too expensive. Oh, you know, the pet was cute when it was a puppy, but now it's a little bit older. Oh, I'm going to euthanize it. I'm going to euthanize it. I'm going to euthanize it for silly reasons. No, that would be unethical. To euthanize any sort of pet, any sort of animal, when there is absolutely no good reason to do so, that's unethical. But again, when it gets to the point where a pet, it's obvious it's not going to live much longer, it can't even move, it can't even see, and it is literally crying out in pain, you tell me what's the compassionate thing to do as a Vaishnava. So with that, I thank you very much for your questions. It's exactly 8 o'clock. I'm going to end here because I wasn't even going to take questions and answers at first. We were just going to have our meditation. But I thank you, all of you who did ask questions. For those of you who you did not have your questions answered, please be here again next Monday, because we do this every single Monday. This is the ISDS Satsangha and a live stream Satsangha. This is something that we do every single Monday here on YouTube, and in the future other venues as well. We'll also be doing Rumble and other places as well, simulcast. But come next time, ask your question again if I didn't see it or have a chance to answer it. And before I leave, if I can please end on a very practical note, and that is that, again, this is being presented to you by the International Sanatana Dharma Society. The International Sanatana Dharma Society, or for short what is known as the ISDS, is a movement that I founded in 1998. And it is a 501c3 nonprofit religious organization. More than this, it is a movement. This is a movement that is designed to do several things. To restore Dharma in this world in every manner conceivable, in manners that, in fact, some of which some people out there cannot conceive yet. Our goal is to bring about a Vedic civilization in this world. That being the case, we have so many volunteers who they give of themselves selflessly, without pay. We have individuals who help us throughout the world because they believe in what we're doing, because they see the effects of what we're doing. They see individuals on our Discord server, individuals who come here to YouTube, individuals who contact us, many of whom have become so hopeless and so depressed in this Kali Yuga to the point where, not to exaggerate, but it is indeed true, several of them were on the verge of suicide over the years. And we helped them to have hope in their life again. The ISDS is a movement that is as idealistic as it gets. We exist to talk about seva again. We exist to give of ourselves that we may serve God, that we may serve God's devotees, and that we may create something very real in this world, a Vedic civilization. All that being the case, we cannot do this without your help. We need your help in every way. We need your volunteer help. We need your prayers. We need your donations. And I'm not going to shy away from this. I used to in the past. For people who have known me for decades, I would shy away from this like it was nobody's business. But these days, I can't anymore because we have a growing movement that is helping thousands of people in this world. We need your donations. We are in the midst of our year-end fundraising campaign. For all of December, we've been asking people to please donate to the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Again, we are a nonprofit. This fundraising campaign goes until the 31st. The reason why that is the case is because you can write this off indeed on your taxes. We are a 501c3. And that being the case, we ask that you please donate to the ISDS. If you have donated in the past, and you can do so again today, I would personally ask that you please do so. Please donate today if you can. If you've never donated, then please consider doing so. If you want to give a one-time donation, you can. If you look in the chat right now, if you look at the very top of the chat, there is a pinned comment that has a link for exactly where you go to donate to the ISDS. Follow that link, and it's a very easy process. It takes about 60 seconds or so to donate to the ISDS. If you would like to become a monthly tithing member as well, please just go to our website, dharmacentral.com, and look under the donation page on the menu, and you'll see a way in which you can also become a member of the ISDS. If you can give $5, if this is all that you can afford, that will be helpful. If you can give $5,000, that will be even more helpful. If you can give us $5 million, I can guarantee you that within 6 months, we will have a 20-acre ashram here. And every single penny that you give us will be used to restore Dharma in this world. But whatever you can give, please give. And as I always have to say, only if you can, please. We never do anything or ask of anyone that they do anything in any fanatical way. If you yourself are impoverished, if you yourself are going through very dire straits economically, then please just give us your prayers. That's all we need. That's all we ask of you. But again, if you can, if you have some extra funds this year, please give to the International Sanatana Dharma Society. And please do so today if you can. And thank you very much for listening to that heartfelt appeal. And with that, I thank you all very, very much for being here with me and with all of us today. And namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharmarashtra Jayate. Suryavansha Jayate. Lord Shriman Narayana, we humbly ask of you that you please empower us in every way that we may restore Dharma to this world. Evam Bhavatu. May it be so. Very good. And with that, everyone, the next time that we come together, it will be a brand new year. It will be 2023. I wish everyone a very wonderful, happy New Year celebration. Please be safe. I want to see you all next year in a week. So with that, everyone, please take very good care of yourselves in every way.